intro?
We don't have the budget for copyrighted music.
Not yet. As I say, we do need to find something.
Yeah, I've been looking.
Yeah.
Trying to think of something. I haven't come up with something. We don't even have a name for it.
No, we don't. Let's come up with a name. Dallas and Eric at the Whiteboard.
My name is Eric Van Poppel. I am the CEO and formulator for Black Crane Supplements. I am also a semi-retired contest prep coach. I got into fitness pretty early on. I needed an out for just energy and life stress. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 14, and I've been in the gym since I was 14. I ran my first business, which was a silk screening and embroidery company. And when you're that young and taking on that much responsibility, you just need an out to burn off some stress. But I fell in love with bodybuilding really early on. I can remember exactly where I was and what the person looked like to the T. It was at a Borders bookstore, and the gentleman that was the cashier, in my mind, he was the most jacked person I've ever seen.
Isn't that funny how when you see somebody when you're smaller that's just bigger, you think they're like Andre the Giant?
Oh yeah. And looking back, I mean, he probably maybe had 17-inch arms, but at the time, I was like, he has like 24-inch arms. He's the biggest man I've ever seen, and seeing this larger than life situation was so uncommon from the way that my family looks and the people that I surrounded myself with in the business world, that I wanted that. It was this new goal that I'd never seen before. I said, how do I look like that? I didn't know anything about Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time. I didn't know pumping iron. I was never exposed to any of these things. This was the first, superhuman that I'd ever seen, and I knew that's what I wanted.
Because it is still rather niche, even for how popular it is. Bodybuilding in general.
Oh yeah.
Like people know Arnold Schwarzenegger as a celebrity or the governor.
Yeah, he's the movie star with muscles.
Yeah, they don't necessarily know his Mr. Olympia history or the people that made history with him.
Fun fact, did you know Sean Connery used to be a bodybuilder?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I've seen him in the black and white.
The black and white pictures.
Yep.
That's a neat thing. And I've just followed that passion with bodybuilding and utilizing my knowledge of science and just furthering that. I tried to figure out how to be the best bodybuilder, which then later translated into how do I become the best mentor, coach. I never wanted to be just a trainer. I prepped my first client for a bodybuilding show from square one at the age of 19, and till this day, he was probably my star pupil. Very, very interesting gentleman. He came to me, said, I'm 51. He goes, I've done just about everything I wanted to do in life except step on stage. He goes, I stood on stage a couple years back and I wasn't happy with how I looked. He goes, I've heard great things about you from some of our mutual friends. I trust you. I want you to just utilize your magic and tell me what I need to do, and I'll follow to the T.
How old were you?
I was barely 19.
And he was 51?
He was 51. And he would call me and we would have, just detailed conversations about training, nutrition, and just different ideas of what I thought, what would be the most beneficial. And because I was already big at that time, I was already over 260 pounds. And at that time, I didn't have a big height growth spurts until I was about 23. So I'm about 5'7". So I'm very, very stocky. I'm very wide. And Robert was about 5'2", and he was a very fluffy 155 pounds. And he gave me a very short time frame. And he said, we've got 8.5 weeks to get ready for this show. And I said, you're joking. And he goes, no. He goes,
what's the typical timetable for a show?
If I have an athlete that I've worked with before, 10 to 12 weeks is usually a safe zone because I know I've kept them relatively lean in the off season. I know what their body likes for food, how it responds to different styles of training, and I've already got the hard work done and I can just fine tune it. I've never met this gentleman in person before. I don't know what he eats. I don't know if he has any food allergies. I don't know his style of training. I've just had intelligent conversations with him over the phone. So I drive like 2 hours to meet this gentleman who gives me wrong directions on how to get to his gym. So I show up an hour and a half late because I can't find it, which turns out it was the old Medina's, the original one over in Hayward. It's an East Bay legend. And anyone in the bodybuilding world in East Bay, California, over in the 925 section, that was the holy grail. I mean, it was dirty, it was raw, and it was just, you were just there.
It was a training facility.
Yeah. All the great bodybuilders came out of Medina's. And so I meet this gentleman, and he barely comes to my nipple. He's short, and he's got these huge calves. And I said, okay, well, let's see with what we have to work with. And so we talked about a couple different game plans. We looked at posing, and I'm very particular with posing. I make sure that any of my athletes are 100% ready at least 5 weeks out with their posing, because I don't want any shaking on stage. That's my worst pet peeve, is seeing someone just shake like they're with those angry fists. And so he sent me progress pictures every week, and we talked every single day getting ready for this to make sure that he was mentally sane, because restricting food that much and doing that much cardio and everything else that goes along with it is very taxing. So I always make sure that everyone's happy, and that if they have stress in their life, that they can vent to me and I can take that load off. I need you to be calm, I need you to be happy, and I need you to be focused. So during this process of less than 8.5 weeks, we went from a soft 155 pounds at about 5'2", maybe 5'2.5". He's not a very tall gentleman. The last progress pictures he sent me, which was right before the water cut, which is about 4 days out from the show, he was 185 pounds and straight glutes. And I couldn't high five him enough. It's like, this is the greatest. And he did really good. He got second place in the show. He just got outsized by the other gentleman in the Masters division class by about 40 pounds. And
Doesn't take much when you're only 5'2".
yeah, and it is what it is. But he had those beautiful lines where he had the nice quad sweep. He had huge calves that didn't even look real, tiny waist, great flow, and he was a great student. He really was. And then I took some time off from training and focused on my own bodybuilding, figured out how to be the biggest freak that I could be, and I got pretty close. I got to a very lean 280 pounds. The heaviest I ever was a little bit over 285, but I was very happy and I felt healthy at about 275. I could still do cardio. I could still do hill sprints with a stroller, and I was happy. I was healthy. That was a good weight. Anything over that was just
You could feel it.
It was blood pressure issues. You'd bend down to tie your shoe, and you'd have a nosebleed. It wasn't fun being that heavy. It's just a lot of weight, and I'm not tall. I mean, even with my big growth spurts, I'm 5'10", maybe 5'10 and a half, and to be that big, to be the better part of 300 pounds, it's very taxing. It's a lot of food, and you're just kind of sluggish.
No, big time. I even know just being when I was 225, 230.
Yeah.
That the extra weight plays a role.
Yeah. So fast forward a couple years, I saw quite a few voids in the fitness industry with supplement companies, with bad advertisement, cheap ingredient products being overcharged. So I decided that we were going to start a supplement company, and we were going to do it the right way. And that's one of the reasons why you see very little actual social media posts. We don't use anything that we wouldn't ask our own kids to do. Try and keep it family friendly. We let the products sell themselves. The products are backed by real science, and that's how we went about it. And then now we just educate the masses on what to look for in supplements. Not every company makes products for everyone, so if people, want to choose other products, by all means, go ahead. We just want you to understand what you're getting yourself involved with, because they might be formulated for someone that's not your body type, and they could be detrimental to your health. So
That's the other thing that we should probably also talk about eventually in one of our shows is the difference in protein powders.
oh yeah, we can get into that.
That's a very healthy discussion that most people think anything that just says protein on it is the same.
Yeah, and that's a very big misconception. There's a big difference between, the 50-pound bag at Costco and, the $80 bottle that you get from, the specialty place.
Exactly. So that's definitely going to be a show coming up. I am Dallas Walden. I own CrossFit San Mateo. I've owned my own CrossFit gym now for 8 years. I've been CrossFitting for 10 years. My background is in sports. I played baseball. I've played baseball since I was 4.5. And then 3-sport athlete in high school, played college baseball, and then touched on the amateur side a little bit, and that's actually what got me into doing CrossFit full-time and competitively. I mainly coach CrossFit group classes. I do a little bit of specialty work, whether it comes from people in my gym or outside the gym that want to work on just gymnastics or just running, just weightlifting, powerlifting, things like that. I also coach baseball players, lacrosse players, golfers is also a big area of mine. Rotational sport athletes that need power. With my baseball background, that fits right into my style of training and coaching. I think there's something for everybody, and I preach that to everybody when they come in. There's something for you. If you think you're too big to work out, if you think you're too small to work out, that's not true. Our goal with this show is to simply help educate most everybody in our community and then the larger community and then hopefully the United States and abroad on fitness-related things, diet, nutrition, practical application pieces, and things you can take away saying, oh, I didn't know that I could do that, or I didn't know that that was out there. And hopefully make small, subtle changes throughout your day that will eventually lead to larger lifestyle changes and just a healthier populace. I think that's where we're going with this. What we've done is we've taken a few questions from some of our clients, some of our group members, and we're going to start by answering those questions and discussing our thoughts on each topic. So what did we say we're going to start with? I was going to write it down, but I didn't.
Someone asked about how do you do your programming? Is there training cycles?
So that's a very interesting question because I did not come up in like the normal, I guess, personal training style. I learned all of my stuff by doing everything, and so it's very experiential. And I've learned what works and doesn't work for my body type and from programming for a couple of my other friends that came up. And I would say our program specifically is more of an athletic style CrossFit as opposed to just a pure CrossFit, which is just random workouts thrown up on the board. Just here you go, here you go, here you go. So the standard programming model for CrossFit is a single modality, a couplet, a double modality, and then a triplet, a triple modality. And then that could kind of vary between time domains. And it's a great baseline philosophy, I think, and especially for people who are just working out. But I also find that, especially in this area, in the peninsula in general, is there's just a basic lack of strength. So people come in here and they can't deadlift their body weight. They don't know how to squat properly. They lack proper upper body strength for any type of real pressing. And so the way I handle our programming here, for our specific clientele, is by developing the baseline strength so we can build our skill from that foundation and eventually increase the intensity. Because the stronger you are, the more intensity you can put out. If somebody comes in here and they can't pick a foam roller up off the floor, you really can't say, okay, do this fast.
So instead of the traditional aspect of just having functional muscle, you're taking the functional muscle but making it stronger as well.
Exactly. And that's why we do a lot of compound movements. So even though people have training backgrounds with weights in the past, 9 times out of 10 they say, "Oh yeah, I do weights, leg press, leg curls, calf raises," but they've never done full compound movements, which is using your entire body in the exercise. So back squat, front squat, deadlift, etc. And I don't necessarily do cycle blocks. We have emphasis training, so we'll put an emphasis on Olympic weightlifting. We'll put an emphasis on powerlifting, to where they're just more skill and strength work in those areas throughout each week. Because I still find that we need a general physical fitness standard that we need to meet before any real like Olympic weightlifting cycle can be truly beneficial. Because if you don't have that foundational strength, and we're doing halting cleans, we're doing 3 stops, and you don't have the endurance to actually make the lifts get the response you want, then it's actually going to be detrimental to your fitness. And since majority of our clientele have less than 10 years of overall training, we have to build up all 10 general physical skills. So not just their strength, but also their coordination, their balance. So by taking all those pieces and putting them into one pie, you slowly build. And in a group setting, it can be a little bit more difficult. When I write up the program, I train for pushing the top 10% in the gym, but still leaving room for the rest to grow and build up to that top 10%. Because I found if you train for the bottom 10%, then you're not going to get the same gains because everybody else is already at said level and they get sedentary and they get unhappy. But it's also, it's much easier to scale something down than it is to continually have to scale up. So to answer the question, there are cycles. You can do an Olympic weightlifting block where 6 weeks, 4 times a week, we're doing this. And then 4 times a week, we're doing this. We don't do that here because there's still so many skills that so many people need to acquire. Now,
yeah, your gym is very unique in that aspect of it doesn't just focus on one particular thing. You're trying to make everyone great at everything. To be strong, but to still have usable muscle. You're not bound up. You can still, do all the crazy maneuvers like over the head squats and things like that, and just do day-to-day things that a lot of bodybuilders can't do.
Exactly. So I'm not trying to be an outlier. If somebody wants to be an outlier, like I've had plenty of people say, "Hey, look, I want to try and do a powerlifting competition." Great. Then we take our general physical fitness as our base, and we begin to build specificity for that sport. So that's why we don't do quote-unquote cycles in the gym, because out in life, outside the gym, there's no cycles. It's just you have to be ready for everything. And we want to make sure that we get people ready for everything.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers that question. What do we have next?
What was the next question?
I think the next one was for you, given the dietary nutritional background. The best meals to eat or not eat before the night of an intense workout.
Oh, yeah. Let me plug this in really quick so we don't die.
Yeah. Yeah, my programming style is a little bit unique. It's a little off kilter.
Oh, I like it because when I was reading the board, Jetta was saying that you had like the whole thing like pre-programmed for like an entire month.
Yeah. Yeah, so I program an entire month, but I adjust it week to week. Which is why I like being in control of my programming, because if you just have it set, and let's say a workout that you thought was supposed to get this response gets a different response, then that throws your entire week off.
Oh, for sure.
Like if you have an endurance day and the next day is supposed to be a fat, hard sprint, and it ends up being not that, then you just offset everything you've just done. So being able to make adjustments in the middle of a programming week is, I think, essential, even in a group class. So that's why I don't like having hey, this is what we're doing, no matter what, it's not changing. If you meet and you get the response, great. If not, it sucks to be you.
And I'm really particular with my powerlifting athletes too. I would say, it's great to have, the programming as a guideline, but you can't use it 100% because some days you're just not there. The strength isn't there. Yep. And some days your strength is, significantly over whatever it's written for. So it's like golf. You just play the course that you're on that day and you just have to adjust as you need it. And when I tell my athletes that, it's like this gigantic weight has been lifted off their shoulders. They're like, oh, I can breathe.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't live off of that piece of paper. Just, what to do. You know what the goal is. You started at A. We're going to get to B. Enjoy the journey as you get there. Every single one of my powerlifting athletes has a minimum of a state record. I have 2 that have world records, and I have 1 that has an all-time world record, and that record still stands.
And they don't get that by doing maxes every single day.
No.
Number one.
No.
And that's why when I go over the workouts, I always try and give what do I want out of the workout? I try and give a goal. Because I feel like too many people, especially newer athletes who are just learning, all they know when they work out is kind of get tired to have a good workout. And that's not the case. Another reason why we talk about pacing. But programming to continue to get gains and not just get a gain that day is super important. Having a lifetime PR is one thing, but having an everyday PR or an everyday. So I tell my athletes, we're doing a back squat max. Your first goal is your lifetime PR, 80% of that. So that way they know, oh, okay, if I don't PR, I'm not failing. My goal is 80%.
Yeah.
Because my lifetime PR is probably on let's say my front squat, 40, 50 pounds off of my everyday PR.
Oh, that's great.
My lifetime is 425. I just had a great day.
Yeah.
Walked up, hit 405. Was like, wow, let's add weight.
Yep.
Did 425. And I looked at the guy I was training with and I was like, that came out of nowhere. My everyday that I could
those are the best.
Yeah, and you know it the second you make that first lift.
Oh, yeah.
When you have 135 on there and it just bounces up and down like it's the bar, it's going to be a good day.
It's going to be a good day.
Yeah. So I have one client who is trying to get a better bench. And this is one thing we've really worked on, is how are you feeling today? How's the bar moving? Does 95 feel like 45? If so, let's go for it. If not, it's going to be a standard training day, and we'll be okay. Sometimes he feels heavy. And he's finally starting to get to that feeling and that point where I don't have to narrate that to him anymore.
Yeah.
And he does a warm-up set, does a break-in set, and then he lets me know how he's feeling. Coach, I feel pretty good today. Okay, sweet, let's go for it.
Cool, yeah.
And he knows. And on those days, he gets pretty good gains. And it lets you know that you don't have to come in here every single day and infinitely get better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd have death maxes of the moon.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then, every day is going to be different. And some days, and I've run into this all the time, my compound movement, it might just not be, it's not that day. But I kill my accessory work. And then I look and I'm like, wow, like I have more blood in whatever I'm training than I've ever had before. This is the greatest pump ever. I wasn't strong today, but I still killed it.
So having the best workout of that day for that day is really primary.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I try and relate to our athletes all the time is, how do you feel today? Not much sleep. I had to miss a meal. Okay, then we know, guess what? We're probably not going to PR. Let's get the best workout we can for today.
Yeah. You just play the course you're on that day. That's all you can do.
So eating the night before an intense workout, so I'm assuming that we're talking about a CrossFit workout.
This is tricky because this is a gray answer. Is this person attempting to train fasted first thing in the morning, get up and just hit the gym?
So this person is in a morning class.
Okay.
So we'll say somebody who trains at 6 and 7 in the morning and 3 times a week, they're looking to best prep and prepare so that they can at least have a strong energy level throughout the entire hour of our workout, no matter what we're doing.
Yeah, and this is a male or female?
Male.
Male? without knowing the person, to give a generalized idea for something like this, I would recommend, assuming that this person is not vegetarian, has no food allergies. If I was coaching this person, they said, Eric, I got this class in the morning. I'm just going to wake up. I'm going to get dressed, and I'm going to go. I'd say, okay, well, the night before, if you've got class at 7 in the morning, I need you to eat your last meal probably around 9 to 10 p.m. That late. Because I need it to stay active in the body for a long duration of time while you sleep. As I look at everything from a hormonal level, whether you're a natural athlete or chemically enhanced, you still have to run the same kind of guidelines for regardless of whatever it is. If you take synthetic hormones or you're just utilizing what nature gave you. Growth hormone is released periodically throughout the day, but you have your biggest surge at night when you go into your deep sleep. So if I know that you're going to train fasted, but I need you to be fully recovered and ready to go first thing in the morning, I need you to have a relatively decent sized amount of red meat because it's going to be such a slow digesting protein, and it has quite a few different fats in there. Now, that's a whole another episode on the fats inside food, but we're going to probably ask about around 6 ounces of red meat, and then you've got two options for this, depending on your body, you're going to know how it responds. I would generally recommend that someone eating that late would do something like a sweet potato. Now, there's good and bad things about
So red meat with sweet potato? Or?
Yes, with no honey. And I know sweet potatoes with no honey, it sounds horrible.
Yeah.
But you've got a couple issues with the sweet potato. Are they tasty? Yes. Are they great for performance? Not really. You have to remember that sweet potatoes don't actually break down in an efficient manner. That only 50% of the carbs are usable as energy, and the other half sits in the bloodstream waiting for the liver to break it down. It's not an efficient carbohydrate source for energy by any means. They're very good for aesthetic purposes. If you were dieting, for a physique-based show or whatever like that, I can control the insulin levels in your body much easier that way because they're low glycemic. However, for a performance situation, if I know that the person is going to just wake up and then just go kill this workout, I'm going to tell them to eat a significantly large amount of white rice just to flood the muscles with glycogen so they're ready to go. So the muscles are prepped and ready for endurance and ready for strength, and they're nice and full.
Would you have them eat anything in the morning?
No. That food would be primarily catered to, I know that I'm going to wake up, brush my teeth, go train, and nothing else in between. And just water.
Do you find anybody has any issues sleeping with a full stomach?
No, most people actually sleep better. I have issues with a lot of athletes that I have them start pulling back their food earlier because there's no serotonin levels in the body. And they're relying on taking melatonin or other sleep aids because there's nothing in there to bump up the serotonin. Yeah. So they just sit there twiddling their thumbs in bed going, well, I guess I'm not sleeping.
I've been there.
And I guess I'm going to call my coach in the morning and be really angry. So for that particular situation, though, that would be my recommendation, is to have the red meat and probably about a cup and a half of white rice. If you were going to do sweet potatoes in lieu of that, probably pretty close to 8 ounces. It would need to be a large amount because it's not an efficient carb source.
I feel like that'd make you a little too full.
It would make you full, but with we'll dip into the red meat really quick because the red meat is like a 2-hour show in its own right. There's a bunch of different nutrients in the red meat that most people don't really hear about. You hear the typical ones like, oh, great, it's got B vitamins, it has creatine. Cool. They're very small amounts. It's not like the big show pony. There's a good amount of CLA that's in red meat, which helps keep the stomach flow down. Right. It helps oxygenize the adipose tissue that's already in your body. Adipose tissue meaning the fat cells to be able to be burnt as an energy source. Now, if you've got something like grass-fed red meat, you've got more healthy omega-3s than salmon does.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So you've got something that's actually helping reduce the inflammation in the body, digest easier than just about anything out there, and it's having a very long duration to break down. So on average, solid food breaks down about 8 grams of protein per hour. So if you've got something, that's the better part of 40 grams of protein, Well, that's keeping the body in an anabolic stage where it's constantly healing itself during that good hormonal breakthrough. So you're going to wake up recovered, healthy, and ready to roll.
So while we're on the topic, what about those that take the classes in the evening, 5 and 6 p.m.? Where should their meals come throughout the day, assuming they have a standard 8, 9 to 5 job?
Yeah, if you've got a standard, cubicle kind of job, you're just going to have to do some food timing. You're going to have to look at it and say, look, I'm going to eat 4 meals today. I train at 5. My first meal is at 7 in the morning. And then you're just going to have to space it out accordingly. And then you're going to have to try and time the carbs the best you can.
I teach that morning meal to be one of the largest foundational meals they have. Is that good?
Yes and no. It really
by
depends.
Largest, I mean the most
nutrient-based.
Yeah, so we're looking at a large portion of protein, large portion of quality carbs, fat, because most people coming here have the cubicle position.
Sure.
They're not active all day.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time for that food to digest. And a lot of people don't eat breakfast, but their next meals come 6 to 8 hours after that. They'll have breakfast at 7, and they won't eat anything real until maybe 2.
Yeah.
And I feel like they need that in their system to keep them sane.
Well, when I do the consultations with an athlete, I always try and ask lifestyle questions. I say, are you hungry during the day? Do you have the option to eat? Because sometimes you might get really hungry, but your job is too demanding, and you don't get the option to just go sit down for 10 minutes and eat. You just have to work through it, and then you get food whenever you get to. And you just kind of have to adjust for that. Now, if I've got someone who says, I'm just not hungry, but I totally have the option to eat, so I'm going to look at their food and I said, okay, well, I'm going to look at this from another hormonal pathway. Maybe your T3 production is really slow. You've got your thyroid hormones, your T3 and your T4. T4 meaning energy, T3 is your metabolic rate. So if your T3 production is low, well, you're not burning fat very fast. If you eat food and you're not feeling warm right after, we need to figure out how to increase it to make it kickstart a little bit better. So I might have your last meal of the day, probably one of the biggest, and then your first meal of the day, probably one of the smallest.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just for a short duration of time to let the body kickstart and get going, because I need you to be really hungry in the morning. You should wake up, and the first thing should be out of your mouth is, I need to pee, I need to eat.
Okay, good. And then what should be the time frame that they should eat before their workout? What should be the content pre and post?
That's a really tricky one because you've got a lot of options, but it's dependent upon that person. I can train on a full stomach and have no issues.
Well, let's say strength training as well as metabolic conditioning, which is what we do.
So a typical one of Dallas classes. So for as much core as you're going to utilize, I don't want to train on a full stomach in one of your classes.
Yeah. No.
I'll throw up.
Yeah.
It would be a good throw up, but it doesn't sound like that much fun, and I'm sure you don't want to mop it up.
Yeah.
For something like that, to make sure that it's at least a good majority digested, I would say about 30 to 45 minutes is a fair number. That way, you're not starving, but you're not overly stuffed.
And then protein and carbs, protein to carbs ratio, and fats before a workout.
Pre-workout?
Yeah.
For the style classes that you do, this is where I would really like to pick a lower amount of protein, a decent amount of fats, but a significant amount of carbs, because that should really be the driving shuttle for this particular workout. You're going to need the glycogen. You're going to need all that energy to be able to push through, to move weight, and to do it, with cardiovascular, in mind. You got to go run. You got to do, whatever it may be. You've got power snatches, and that it's very taxing. So you need the nutrient supply.
So what happens when hamstring cramp?
What happens when you have a hamstring cramp? Or you really got one?
I really had one.
Yeah.
What happens when people come in only eating once that day, twice that day, and are nutrient depleted, and still need to work out, still want to work out, whether they tell me or another coach or not, they're here. What goes on with their body energy-wise, and why is it
it starts to eat itself, and then it makes it harder to recover because your body goes into a very aggressive catabolic stage where it starts eating the muscle tissue as fuel. There's several stages for it, but in layman's terms, that's what's going to happen. You're just going to start eating yourself. And then it makes it harder to recover because now you've started to eat itself. So it's not the same as just, oh, well, I had a protein shake and that's fine. You've already done damage. So now you went 4 steps backwards. And now you're trying to take one big leap to go back to all those 4, and it just doesn't happen.
So it's healthier to eat more. I hope my members are listening to that.
Yes, eat.
Eating
is good. And you'll see the difference in yourself too when you undereat. Say, oh, I don't like what the scale says. I'm too heavy, so I'm just not going to eat today. It backfires because your body goes into a starvation mode. So it just goes, ooh, yay! Any kind of food, we're not letting go. I'm going to bear hug it and love it forever.
And store it, and store it, and store it, and store it.
Yep. And then your love handles come out, and then the double chin comes out, and then the moon face comes out. And then you wonder why I'm eating so little and I'm getting fatter.
And I have no energy.
And then your muscles go flat, you get weaker.
So post-workout, immediately after, and this is given a strength training day and a moderate metabolic conditioning energy system training day.
If the person has the time frame, what I like to recommend is a high protein, high fat post-workout with no carbs. I like the glucose neogenesis to heal the body much faster. And that's where the body has an excess amount of protein and amino acids, and those get converted into glucose. It's a slower process, but the body heals much more efficiently that way.
As opposed to just putting glucose in carbs. And so instead of having a banana, you're looking at what?
So if I had someone that was not doing a protein shake and they just said, I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat regular food, said, okay, then I'm going to either want you to eat chicken or whole eggs.
So let's say they do have protein shake.
If they have a protein shake, you're buying a window, but it's not very large.
Even after doing metabolic conditioning, you don't want them flooding with carbs?
Right. And this is where it gets complicated. If you have the time frame and you know you're not going to work out again right after, that would be the only time that you would have to replenish the body with glycogen. If you're just going to go home and cook dinner and spend time with the family, you don't need it. Let the body heal itself in a more efficient manner, and it'll actually make you leaner.
Because you won't be storing because you won't have extra.
Right. So the body is going to utilize the nutrients. Your body is very insulin sensitive. So any kind of nutrients that you're giving it, it's going to suck it in like a sponge. So if you can give the body like a complete protein, like say you went in and you're like, okay, I'm going to cook chicken with organic grass-fed butter. That's it. That would be the meal. But if you're going to do a protein shake, it's going to break down fast, but it's only giving you a little bit of a window until you need to start eating again.
It's just extending your window.
You're extending the healing process, but it's not going to repair everything. So you just look at the breakdown of it. If you gave me a protein shake that was a whey isolate, I know that's going to break down in under 15 minutes, where solid food is breaking down 8 grams of protein per hour. So it's spiking the insulin levels. It's generating a rainbow effect for your glucose levels, for your sugar levels. So you're going to drink it, and you're going to feel, wow, this is great. And then in about 20 minutes, you're going to start feeling blah. And that's where you need to start eating food to counteract it and to actually bring nutrients back into the body that are sustainable.
Makes sense.
So if you've had a very aggressive workout like you did, a Dallas class, drink a shake and then go straight home and eat, or go down the road to a restaurant, get some type of clean nutrients to put back into the body.
Something, definitely not nothing.
So, but if I came in to do a morning class and I was like, you know what, that was great. I've got some free time today. I'm going to come back and do another class. Oh yeah, you better believe that I'm going to start stuffing my face with some potatoes.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have many people doing 2 a days, but it is important that people make sure they eat after their workouts. Especially, I try and have people bring something to the gym because it's the Bay Area. You're going to be in traffic for 30 minutes.
You're going to be in traffic.
And it is a smaller window that people think when you take, time, my workout's done. From 45 minutes from there on is your biggest window to get proper food and nutrients. And you keep going past that, that body's going to continue to break down
It doesn't suck it up nearly as efficiently.
into a catabolic state, and that's when gains start really getting depleted.
Yeah. So that was the food question. We answered the training cycles
Broadly.
broadly. Is there
What else
any
do we
other
have?
questions?
That might wrap up number 1.
It was a good episode for number 1.
I think so.
Talked about some food, gave some insight on some red meat,
Training.
training. All right, Dallas, I think that's going to wrap it up for episode number 1. Thanks for coming out.
The pilot.
Pilot.
We'll talk to you soon.